Today's episode, we have the amazing Vicki Weinberg coming onto the show to share her journey and breakthroughs about what it's been really like as somebody who runs a slightly different business than we would normally see joining the C-suite. Vicki is an incredible business owner. She actually runs a business where she supports big brands to put their products on Amazon Marketplace and sell them. And that's so interesting to me because we see lots of people who come into the C-suite. We talk about openly the fact that it's for service-based business owners, but we never had somebody come into the C-suite before who had been teaching brands how to sell their own products on an external marketplace. And it was so interesting. So Vicki is on the show today. She is talking all about her business and what it really looks like when you're selling products on Amazon behind the scenes, and also the kinds of breakthroughs that she's experienced and the way that she's used our 5-step selling to corporate framework to support her business growth over the last 7 months. I really hope that you enjoy listening to this episode as much as I've enjoyed recording it. It's a fabulous conversation. And unfortunately, I have I've done the dirty and I swore the first time on the Selling to Corporate podcast. It's right at the end and our editor Scott is going to take it out for me, but I thought I would fess up so that when you listen to it and you listen back and you think, God, that Jess, that Jess for swearing. But I promise you it's worth it and it will all be edited out. So hopefully if you have children in the car, they won't hear a thing. Anyway, enjoy this episode, enjoy this conversation with Vicki, and I hope that you get a lot out of the absolute golden nuggets that she shares about the way that she has used our 5-step selling to corporate framework. Welcome to the Selling to Corporate podcast, where we're going to be challenging your sales beliefs around selling to corporate organizations and help you increase your bottom line profits every single month. I am Jessica Lorimer, your sales expert and guide in this world of selling to corporate companies, skyrocketing your company sales and making the impact that you really want in the world. Now, don't forget, if you do enjoy the show today, please do head over to iTunes and leave us a review. But enjoy this episode, and I am really looking forward to sharing some epic sales wisdom with you. Okay, I am super excited to welcome you to the Selling to Corporate podcast. Vicki, how's it going?
Really good, Jess. Thank you for speaking to me.
I'm so excited that you're here because you run such a different business than some of the ones that we see inside the C-suite. So I just want you to introduce yourself and what you do for everybody who doesn't have the benefit of spending every couple of months with you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jess. I'm Vicki Weinberg and I help businesses to sell their products on Amazon. And I do 2 core things. I help people to get started and get off to a really good start, which is really important. And I help businesses who've perhaps been on selling on Amazon for a while and need some help, whether it's to improve sales, whether it's to make their businesses more efficient, or whether it's just general troubleshooting. I can do all of it.
It's so exciting, isn't it? Because before I met you, I obviously am a big Amazon user, like everyone, I guess, who listens. And I was just like, oh, yeah, Amazon, it's just, you just get things on Prime. I didn't ever really think about the fact that it was individual sellers. I didn't really ever think about the way that companies were using Amazon. I just kind of imagined Jeff Bezos, this sounds really naive now that I'm saying it, but I just kind of imagined like Jeff Bezos sat in front of a big warehouse with a bunch of toilet rolls and was like, okay, well, subscribe and save people. And obviously it's not like that at all. It seems to be a really interesting way that both individuals and companies are using to add an extra convenient revenue stream.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying for a minute, by the way, that all products and businesses should be on Amazon, because I don't believe that. And I will tell you, if someone speaks to me, I'll be really honest about whether I think Amazon is a good fit. But I do think it's another way to get more sales, to get different customers who may not have come across you, because let's face it, it's a shopping search engine. So it's not like getting people to your website to see your products. People are there to shop already. So they're there because they're looking to buy something. And if you're selling what they're looking for, I think it's a much easier way to make a sale. Not saying it's the best marketplace or the only marketplace, but I do think it's a good one. But coming back to what you said before, Jess, well, I think what a lot of people don't realise is that selling on Amazon is nowhere near as simple as buying on Amazon.
Yep.
It is so hard, harder than it should be. I don't actually understand why it's so difficult.
It's one of those things, isn't it? I remember self-publishing my first book, and even Amazon Kindle is difficult to use. It is so difficult that for my second book, I'm like, no, I just don't want to do it. Everything's written, but I don't really want to go through the pain of publishing. So that's where you're so valuable, because obviously you've spent years navigating the crazy circumstances that they dream up.
Yeah, I'm in the Amazon seller portal. I want to say 90% of my day, really. I'm just in it all the time, which is really good because I know how it works. And it's probably good that I do, because I don't know how to say this nicely, especially because it's been recorded, but it looks like something from like the early 2000s. It's really old fashioned and it's not user friendly. And people are always surprised. I think it's a really valid question. Sometimes someone might say to me, well, why do you do that? How is there a business in what I do? And I think it's because I think Amazon have helped me to have this business, to be honest, by not making it simple for people. Because if they had a really lovely system that everyone could use and they had an amazing support team, probably I wouldn't be needed, because everyone would be able to do it themselves. And people can still do it themselves, by the way. I don't want to say for a minute you have to work with someone to get your products on Amazon. You absolutely can do it yourself. It's just that a lot of people just don't want the headache, and that's fair enough, because it can be a bit of a hassle.
And especially for someone like me, like I have ADHD, I think, oh yeah, that'll be great. And then the actual logistics of it are just so traumatizing that I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like,
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel that way. Or they're, genuinely just, only all have so many hours in the day. And do you want to spend your time working out how to use a totally new system? Or do you want to hand it over to someone who can do it really well? Because I've definitely felt like that with things like building a website. I probably could use Wix or something and put something together. But actually, I'd rather pay someone who knows what they're doing and not have to think about it. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but yeah, I feel like that about a lot of things. I'm really happy to pay someone else so that I don't have to do it.
Exactly. It just takes the pain out of it. And I think what's so interesting is that you've almost added this separate stream to your business. I know that we're talking about it in the context of individuals and people selling their products on Amazon. But actually, what it must have been, I think it was about 7 months ago, when you came to me and you were like, actually, could I be doing this with more companies? I'd love for you to talk a little bit more to people about why you went down that road of considering, well, actually, should I be inviting more corporate companies and supporting them to sell their products on Amazon? Because I think people automatically assume that big companies have everything covered. And what we've learned about your journey is that they don't.
Yeah, that's right. And I've started realizing that. I think just being on Amazon and using it a lot, I would come across things and I'd be like, this product looks amazing. And it might be, I'm not going to like name any products, but I'd see a product and I think this looks amazing. Or maybe it's even something I'd buy and use myself. And I'd be like, this is really good. But I wouldn't know that from the listing. This is just an example. I might be like, this could be so much better. Or I would look for something on Amazon and it wouldn't be there. And I'd be like, why isn't this there? Or why is it being sold by a wholesale, or whatever it was? And I genuinely came to it by like thinking, there's an opportunity here. I genuinely saw an opportunity and thought, I'm just going to see if they want my help, because I could help with this. I can see that this listing could be better, or I can see that this product would work really well, but it's not. I'm just going to ask them if they want me to help. And that's honestly what the thought process was, because I had been working with small businesses for a long time. And I guess I had always thought, oh, the bigger companies, they'll have someone in-house that does this. And some of them do, by the way, but then a lot of them don't. And I found that sometimes the role of selling on out getting products on Amazon is given to someone, and they haven't had any support or any training, and it's just been like, you're in charge of this. And I think that must be really hard for someone put in that position, especially, as I mentioned, it's a really hard place, but I guess unless you know that, you don't know that. And I think that would be really hard if I was given something to do and my boss didn't realize how hard it was, and I was like, but it's not me, it's Amazon. I can imagine that some people, their bosses are going, what, it can't be.
Yeah, don't be silly. Amazon's so simple.
So I just feel like there was so many areas where probably I could genuinely help, and that's kind of always been what I've wanted to do.
I love that. And it's interesting because the two are seemingly very different. I know that usually when we talk to people about the difference between selling B2C and B2B, actually the services tend not to change massively. But in terms of what you do, you're supporting companies to put high volumes of products in certain cases onto Amazon. Is that any different than helping like a small business owner to put, I don't know, their journals on, or products that they're reselling? Or what would you say the big differences are?
I actually don't think there is much of a difference, if I'm really honest. Some of my clients have a bigger range of products than others. Some have their own distribution centers, some don't. But to be honest, I think the fundamentals of doing like getting your products on Amazon and making sure they're really well optimized and really easy to find in search and that everything's configured correctly. Like it doesn't matter whether I work with someone selling one product or a whole range.
Yeah.
The fundamentals are the same. It's just the scale that's different. So for me, I'm doing pretty much the same thing. I guess where the variety comes in really is down to the product and the brand, which is what I really like.
And that's really exciting, isn't it? Because I love that when we look at selling, all the differences between selling B2C and B2B, everyone's like, oh, but it must be so different and the people must be so different. And it's like, no, actually, I'm just making more money selling and delivering exactly what I would normally be selling and delivering, but to household name brands that I might not have realised were struggling with this problem. That's a really cool sense of achievement.
Yeah, I guess so. I think I provide the same service no matter who I work with because I think the need is the same. So I hadn't actually thought of it like that. But yeah, you're right.
Well, I try. Oh my God, I love it. Tell us a bit more about what made you think, okay, if I want to start working with these kind of bigger brands, I've seen the pain point, I understand that they're going to need support. What made you think about taking sales training or looking at the C-suite as a reason or a way to kind of provide better sales support?
I think I had known for a while that I wanted to work with different companies. I was a little bit nervous, to be honest, because while knew I was coming out of a good place, there was this bit of me thinking, who am I to approach a large company and say I can help you? What credentials do I have? Why would they choose to work with me? They've probably already got a supply. All these things go through your head. And then I came across you in the C-suite because you did a workshop for another group that I was in, Jess. And I listened to you speak and I was like, everything she's saying makes total sense because I really like the fact that you're very straightforward and it's the message I got from you really was you just have to do it, just do the work. And that really appeals to me because I'm good at doing the work. That's something I know I'm good at. If I know what to do, I can do it. And I was like, do you know what? I've been talking about this and thinking about doing this and sort of half-heartedly approaching some companies. But I was like, if I'm really serious about this, I need to invest. Part of the reason for investing in the C-suite was I felt like if I make the investment, then that's like a commitment to myself that, okay, you've invested in this now.
Yeah.
You can't do this. And then the fact is, like I said, I'm good with doing the work, but what I didn't want to do is think about what I wanted to do. I wanted something to tell me, this is what you need to do. And here are some templates to help you out. Off you go and do it. And that's what really appealed to me and what made me join because I was like, this just seems like exactly what I'm looking for.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I think we've all been there where we've bought courses or programs where we've learned a lot of the theory behind why something works. And I say it to people all the time about sales. I'm like, you as a business owner don't really need to understand why the theory works behind certain sales processes because that's only interesting for nerds like me. Same as your clients don't really need to know the ins and outs of the clunky behind the scenes platforms that they're going to need to use. They just need to get the products on there and list them in the right way and all that kind of stuff. The problem that I had with courses 4 or 5 years ago was that everyone was teaching theory, but then people would have to sit there and go, okay, that's nice. Now I understand why cold email marketing works or why LinkedIn messaging works, but what am I supposed to put in the messages? And that's just where people get really frozen. I think it's really difficult to have to then think, okay, so what am I going to write and when am I going to send it and all this kind of thing. And like you say, people like you who are good implementers just want to be told, on day 1, do this. On day 2, do that. On day 4, do that. It makes it so much easier when you're not having to procrastinate on what to do, but it also reduces, I think, those mind monkeys that you're talking about around like, why would a company work with me? Because sometimes people sit there and they're like, oh, but if I use the one wrong word in my messaging, what if the company doesn't work with me because of that? What if they don't book a call with me because I sent the message at the wrong time? What if they don't book a call with me because I didn't have the right subject line or something? I think it makes a big difference when you don't have to think.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what's really nice with the C-suite is there's a right amount of information versus implementation. So, for example, in there somewhere you talked about the fact that cold email generally works the best. Because I'd done the workshop and I had enough trust in you at that time, I was like, Jess says this one works the best. I'm doing this one. If you see what I mean, there was enough information for me to go, okay, that sounds like that's what I'll do. But I didn't need to know the theory. As you said, I didn't need to know why. I don't need to know percentages or I don't need to. There's a lot of stuff I don't need to know. I like the fact that it just tells me the bits that I really need to know because if I want to find out more I can go and look it up. It just gave me enough to go, okay, this is what I'm going to try. And I really like that approach because you're right, a lot of courses you can do a whole workshop or go through a whole online course and then go, now what do I do?
Yeah, which is so scary. You're like, oh, I've paid a bunch of money for this course, but like, what do I actually do with it? I've listened to all the videos, and I remember coming into the online space in like 2015, and I bought a course and it was really good. Like, that was the thing. It was a really, really good course. But when I started, it had like 60 videos, and they were like, you have to watch all of them. And I was like, what? Just give me the cliff notes, because I'm not the sort of person who learns all the theory and then can go back and be like, oh, what do I do here? And how am I going to make this work? But no, I think that's a really positive way to look at it, is if you want to implement, it makes it easy. How would you say your sales process has changed, if at all?
Well, I have one, so that's a good starting point. Like, I actually have a process, because before I was very ad hoc, whereas now I'm quite structured in that I know how many emails I need to send out every week. I know how many sales calls I'd ideally like to book a week, and I don't always hit it, but at least if you don't have a goal, you're never going to get there. But at least I have a goal, and some weeks I get there and some weeks I don't, but that's fine. But I track everything, which isn't something that I've ever really done before, because I've never liked the idea. But actually, I was like, if I'm going to do this and if I'm going to invest in this, I need to see if it's working. So I do track how many emails I send and how many people reply and all of this stuff that some people might seem quite boring. But for me, it's good, because for me, it shows progress. So I can see, okay, if I send out this many emails, I'll probably get this many calls, and then I'll hopefully make this number of sales. And it's reassuring to have that data. And it kind of backs up a lot of what you've said, Jess, about the fact that you do just have to go out and do it. And the more you do it, one, I think the easier it gets, I'll say, in terms of the process, because it gets to the point where, I'm not saying you don't have to think about it, but when you're just scheduling, sending emails, for example, I don't stress about, oh, have I got this worded right? Or like you say, I've got templates. I do send the emails, as in I do, paste them in myself and do all of that, because I think that's better for me than trusting automation or something. And I like the fact I can do it myself. And sometimes I will say in the email, I might mention, oh, I bought this and I really like it or something, because I like to do that. Yeah, I don't think about it. It's not one of those jobs that I stress about. It's like, every week I'm going to schedule my emails and I just do it. And I think that really, really helps, because unless you do it, you're not going to see results. And I think doing it consistently really helps as well. I think it's like anything, you sort of builds up momentum, and it's like, the longer I've been doing this for, the better the results I'm getting. And I haven't changed much other than the longer I've been doing it, because the volume's gone up. And I think it just shows what you said at the beginning, which is, if you do the work, you will start to see results, but you've just got to do it and do it consistently.
And I think it's so interesting, because the main fears that people always have when they're thinking about selling to corporates is, why would a corporate work with a small provider? Why would they consider someone like me? And if you are listening to this and thinking that, please go and listen. I did an episode a couple of weeks ago on why businesses actually want to work, or why big brands want to work with smaller suppliers. So people always have that fear. Am I going to be good enough? Am I going to be able to compete with some of like the big competitors out there? Then you've got the people who are like, I just don't know what to do, or I've never worked in corporate before. Is it going to be all right? Or are people going to use all this crazy corporate jargon that I don't really understand? And what if I look silly? I think that's a big thing for people. And I think if you have that kind of sales process that you just repeat, you don't have to worry so much about that stuff, because you're like, oh, well, hundreds of other people have done it this way. So, okay, they didn't look dumb.
I'll be really honest, Jessica, I don't know if this helps anyone listening. I still have some of those worries, especially like, why would someone choose to work with me? I do think that, but I just don't let it stop me sending the email. And I try not to think about that. I honestly now have the attitude of, what's the worst that can happen? And I think the worst that can happen is they reply and say, please don't email me again. And that's it. That's literally the worst thing that can happen. Whereas the best thing that can happen is we can have a call and then I can help them. And that's great. So I do still feel like that a lot, but I just don't let it stop me doing anything, because why should I really?
I think there's always so much more to gain on the other side. I love what you said there. I think it's really transparent, because a lot of the time people be like, oh yeah, it's all fine. I never worry about anything anymore. And I think everybody is really normal as human beings to have those thoughts around, oh, am I good enough? Our company's going to work with me. I think what's interesting is that our emotions are so changeable, right? So if we're having a good day and we feel good about ourselves, and we've got up, we've had our coffee or whatever beverage you drink, and you've had a little dance around your kitchen and you've gone for a walk or whatever, and you get to your desk and you're feeling really good, really happy, you're much more likely to worry less that day about, our company's going to work with me, our big brand's going to like what I do. If you wake up, and I do this relatively frequently, I wake up and I'm like, oh God, my favorite jeans don't fit. Oh, what a day. Or I had too much like Chinese food the night before and I'm like, oh, I feel bloated. And now I just feel a bit meh and oh, I can't really be bothered to go for my walk. So I just feel a bit crap. And those emotions, they're nothing to do with my business. They're nothing to do with the companies or the brands that we go on to work with, but they do impact the way that you feel that day about your sales process because you're not as confident that day. And you kind of take those internal emotions and you project it onto your business unknowingly. And so I think what you said there about, well, you just have to do it regardless, because there could be such a big win on the other side, is huge. It's not to say ignore your emotions and be a robot, but it is to say, well, actually, sometimes we have to acknowledge what's relevant to our business and moving it forward. And sometimes we have to go, oh, that thing is not necessarily useful and it's just keeping me in a non-growth place, or it's keeping me in my comfort zone, or not helpful for me today.
Yeah, and I think what's really helped me is knowing that I have one day a week where I time my calendar one day every week, same day, to schedule all my emails. And because that's in there and because that's what part of what I do, it doesn't really matter if I'm tired or I've had a rubbish morning, or because I'm doing that because I do that. And that for me really helps because it removes the thinking and the emotion, because it's like, oh, it's Tuesday. This is the day that I schedule my email. So I guess I'll do that then. That's massively helped me. And I think for anyone who does struggle with like, oh, should I send it? I think if you make it part of what you do, as time goes on, it just becomes easier to do it and not think about it. When I say don't think about it, of course you're considering like who your contact, all of that stuff. But I mean, in terms of actually doing it, I think if it's just becomes what you do, it for me, that's helped massively.
It's like you've become the world's best employee for your company. You're like, yeah, I schedule everything now and I've got this process and I just do it on a Tuesday and whatever. That's so good because it's just, it takes all the mind pressure off around when will I do something, and working yourself up into kind of like an adrenaline fueled, oh my God, it's going to be difficult and hard. And
yeah, when I first started in the C-suite and I was first sending out cold emails, I honestly used to feel nervous. Like I'd schedule them and I'd know when they were going out the next day, and I'd be looking at my watch going, people are going to be getting emails from me now. What are they going to think of me? And I genuinely used to worry and think they'll be judging me. And like, but they're not. And I know that because I get those emails all the time. And if they're not relevant to me, you know, like the emails where they say we can grow your Instagram following, whatever, they're not relevant to me. I just delete them. I couldn't even tell you who they were from. I don't go and like look the person up so I can think bad things about them. I just go, oh, this isn't relevant. And that's it. Like that's the extent of it. But it's so funny, isn't it? You feel like other people are going to take more notice of you, but I honestly don't think they do.
It's such a strange thing, isn't it? Like you say, nobody sat there with a big post-it note on the desk like, that Jess Lorimer, never work with her because she emails us all the time. They don't know. They get
They
emails
don't.
all every day.
And something I'll mention as well, because I just think, again, it might be useful for people, is when I've maybe sent someone 3 or 4 emails and I haven't heard from them again, I tell you nothing back, and then I send a 5th email and they reply as if this was the first time they've heard from me. And I'm like, what? Because I see the reply and I think it's going to say, why have you emailed me so many times? But it never does. No one's ever said that. It's always
thankful.
yeah.
I find I get a lot of people who respond, if like I say, if you use the process in the right way, because there'll be people listening to this being like, oh my God, you mean you send more than 2 emails? And that will be a really challenging thought because not everybody does. And this is not Vicki or I saying, oh, send 5 really crap sales emails. This is
don't do that.
Follow a decent process. But what tends to happen in that 4th email or that 5th email is they come back and go, oh, I'm so sorry. I meant to reply to this, or, oh God, I'm really sorry. Like, this sounds great. I just haven't had time to pick it up yet. And you've been sat there for 5 emails going, oh my God, are they ghosting me? Like, what's going on? Do they not like the stuff? Is it wrong? No, they're just busy human beings doing their actual job, like just like you do every day, or just like I do. I think that's hugely important. I guess one question I'd have for people listening is, what do you think your biggest breakthroughs have been in terms of joining the C-suite? Because you are still relatively new. 7 months is a short time, but do you feel like there have been key breakthroughs and wins that you're really celebrating?
Yeah, I think the biggest one I had actually was very early on, because one of the first things I did, because I wasn't quite ready to jump into emailing loads of people I didn't know, was you had a process in there, and I can't remember what it's called, and you basically, that was it. You're basically, because I should actually say with the portal, just got very, I know we go back to something you were saying earlier, you were talking about courses, you have to watch loads of videos. What I've really appreciated about the C-suite is because you don't have to follow it in a linear way. I dip in and out all the time, which is why I don't know what anything's called. I just have a problem and I go, oh, there's probably something in there. I'll find the thing I need, I'll use it, and that's it, which is really refreshing to not have to work through 60 hours before you can do anything. But anyway, so that in the cash injection you mentioned contacting warm leads, people you've worked with before, or maybe existing clients, and just asking for referrals, which seems like such an obvious thing. But I'd never done that before. I'd never once, I don't think I'd asked for a testimonial, let alone say, could you recommend me to someone? And it's so obvious, I know, but I'd never done that. So I did that, and then I got lots of leads, and I got a really big sale off the back of that. And that was amazing. And that was literally me just spending 20 minutes emailing people that I knew liked me and were happy working with me, but I'd never thought of asking to recommend me before.
That is normal. You know, why would you? And also, I think there's a difference between thinking, oh, I'd really like to ask for referrals, and then knowing what to say so that it's not awkward. Because I know one of the things that we talk about in the cash injection module is if you're in the C-suite and you're listening to this, which hopefully you will be, you can go into that cash injection module and there are all the templates to do that. But it's like, what do I say? And also, what if they don't respond? Do I follow it up? Do I do something else with it? Do I just hope that they have deleted it and feel really awkward next time I speak to them? And I think that's the feeling that people can have about asking for referrals. And actually, it's not. It's such a great process. And you had a really huge sales month after that, which was amazing. And all down to the fact that you stepped out your comfort zone on it.
Definitely. And the templates, I should say, helped massively. Because as you say, I think that was the biggest thing holding me back was, how do I say this? Because I mean, we'd all like to ask lots of people for lots of things, I'm sure. That's just a fact, isn't it? There's plenty of things you want to ask people, but it's just being a bit awkward and not knowing how. But having the wording there, and obviously I tweaked it a little bit to make it sound like me, but having some sort of structure that I know you've used and other people have used and has worked was really reassuring, because again, it's just taking the thinking bit out of it. And I really think anything that means you can take action without overthinking it and analysing every last word is really helpful and saves a ton of time as well.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. I think it's one of those things where sometimes you can be on the fence about jumping into something. And I know that a lot of people who listen to the podcast, they hear about the C-suite all the time and they're like, oh, will it work for my business? Is it something that I should be doing? Will brands actually work with me? And I know that probably you were there once upon a time being like, should I join the C-suite? Is it going to be for me? If you were talking to somebody who had that question and was like, what should I do? Should I jump in? Should I not? What would your advice be?
I would definitely say jump in. I think I would really recommend it if you're looking to sell to corporate clients. But I would say if you are wanting to actually do it and you want to do it now. The reason I say this is part of the reason I joined is I was ready. I was ready to jump in and do the work, because as I've said before, it's not one of these things where you're going to watch hours of video and then you're going to learn some theory and then you're going to do a little bit. You can literally join up. I think within days of joining, I went to the cash injection module. That's one you recommended to start, Jess. I looked at what I wanted to do and I got the templates and I asked for referrals. And I think it was probably the first week of joining that I suddenly got some referrals and got a sale. And it was because I was in the mindset of, okay, I'm going to take this and use it, because it's not something to invest in and then just leave it sitting on the virtual shelf for months, because in my experience it has worked for me because I've done the work. So I feel like if you are ready to do it, absolutely
I really love
invest.
that. I really love that. And people always say to us, how do you have such a high success rate with the C-suite? And I'm 100% with you. When you are ready to do the work, the course is the perfect option to do that, and it takes all the stress out of it and everything. But if you are the person who's like, oh, I'll just buy it and then maybe I'll start it in January, or maybe I'll start it in March, or you kind of sit and you think, oh, maybe I'll do this at some point in the future, the chances of you digging it back out are so slim that it doesn't make any sense. If you're somebody who's like, yeah, actually, I really want to sell to corporates. I want the best resources out there. I want something that's accredited that I can feel secure in my learning in. And I'm ready to spend an hour or 2 hours a week doing the work. Absolutely great, wonderful. If you're the sort of person who's like, I just want to buy it to have a bit of a look around and then I'll decide, yeah, I'm with you. Not the right fit.
And I would also say, what the other thing that I appreciated about it is it probably takes less time to do the work than it would to look at all the videos. Do you know what I mean? I haven't spent a ton of time for all the courses that I've invested in. I have not spent a ton of time because I've just picked the bits that I need and then I've done the work. And I don't think I've ever spent more than a few hours a week, because there might be a little podcast thing I can listen to when I'm walking the dog, and then I can go home and I can do something right away. And I've really appreciated that, because it hasn't been a massive time commitment. Really. I probably, on business development overall, I'm probably spend, I don't know, an hour or two spread across the week. And that has been enough. And of course, if I needed to, I could spend more time.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things where all the time you're spending is on things that are going to pay back. It's not watching a video or something, which, let's face it, I can never find the time for those courses.
Oh yeah.
But because of the way it's structured so that you can implement everything right away, I think you might spend 20 minutes listening to something or 5 minutes reading something, but then you're going to spend an hour doing some work, and then hopefully you're going to see a response from that.
Which is massively different from the B2C world, where it is you've got to be creating content all the time, you've got to be showing up on social media all the time, you've got to be writing like newsletters and blogs and whatever all the time. To be like, oh, I'm just going to learn this thing, take 20 minutes to learn the thing, another 20 minutes doing the thing, see results from the thing in a couple of days. Just for me, it's definitely better work-life balance.
Yeah, it's very refreshing. And I also like that you gave us permission not to keep doing all of the things as well, because that was actually one other thing I did after I joined the C-suite, is I just stopped doing so much on social media, because I was like, why?
Thank you so much. Honestly, that's absolutely amazing. I'm so proud of you. I think it's been a huge achievement. And I think that there are definitely times that people have thought, oh God, a self-study program is something that's really difficult and really scary, because can I rely on myself to do the work? And I love that what you've said about it is that actually you were empowered to start. You were ready to go. You knew that you wanted to do it. You were prepared to put in the couple of hours a week that it takes. And you've seen these epic results. So if you're listening and you're thinking, well, actually, it's a self-study, am I going to be okay doing that? Have a re-listen to this episode and think really carefully about, okay, am I the sort of person that is going to be prepared to dedicate my couple of hours a week to doing and implementing and making that easier for myself? Or am I the sort of person who just wants to think about it for another few months and perhaps try some things out on my own and figure it out and see what the time difference is? But if people are listening and they're thinking, well, actually, maybe I should sell some stuff on Amazon, or they have corporate clients themselves that should definitely be selling stuff on Amazon, where's the best place for them to find you?
Best place is my website, which is vickyweinberg.com.
I love it. And we'll get that in the show notes for you. Thank you so much for coming on today. And for those of you who've enjoyed this conversation, please do go and reach out to Vicki on LinkedIn and say thanks, because every guest that we have on takes time out of their day to share their journey and their breakthroughs and their obstacles with you so that you can learn. So if you have enjoyed today's episode, please do go and reach out to Vicki and say, thanks, this was my big takeaway. And I'll see you in the next episode.